He's gonna call in at 7.
Okay.
If we left.
I hate that. I don't know anybody's numbers, so I just get number this. I'll be late, I'll be there, I don't, I'm like, okay, I thought maybe it was her because she had a meeting, you know, because she's got all the meetings all in different towns, so. I was like,
I had a developer again calling about something in North Stonington. I'm like, I haven't been there in 5 years. Like, there's other planners that you can contact
Nope.
to help you.
I had somebody call me
Oh my God.
about Maine politics 2 days ago. I guess there's some,
Juliet, who's in North Stonington now?
Sue Cullen,
Oh, right. Okay, yeah.
I'll call her. I'm like, I don't know why. 3 separate developers that keep calling.
for what, up in there?
I'm just asking questions about their signs and stuff, but
Yeah.
I've worked there years.
So we'll call the regular, well, this isn't a regularly scheduled meeting, is it? Would this be it is a regularly
Yeah, yeah.
scheduled meeting.
Public
The
hearing.
Planning and Zoning Commission with a public hearing to order at 7:02, April 9th. Roll call. Steve Fancy here, shows on Friday here.
Pat Ray, Linda Hyde.
We don't have the alternate seat, don't need to.
Well,
Public hearing,
I'm here.
but you're automatically now being seated.
Well, you have to stay.
Yeah, oh, sorry, you're seated. I just assume you're a full member that you're already here.
Let's see.
Public hearing, subdivision regulations.
Okay.
Uh,
Sure. So, Taylor, for the record, do you want to note when this was advertised in the paper?
Yeah, it was on both Mondays. It was April 7th and then March 31st.
Okay. So this is a public, and I don't know, Mr. Chair, can you tell me, are there any members of the public in attendance?
Negative, and there's 0.
Okay. Okay. Well, then this we may not get to see Chairman Davidson show up at 7:30. There's not likely to be a lot of public comment here. So we went through we're having a public hearing. We have gone through the process over the last, I would say, 6 to 8 months of basically following our update of the zoning regulations. We tackled the subdivision regulations, which are less extensive, and the changes are a little bit simpler, to basically update them, remove any internal contradictions, update references, because a number of the references were to either regional entities, health departments, or state departments that are renamed, are no longer in existence, were reorganized. So we updated the references. We updated this according to state statutory changes relative to issues of open space, bonding, application processing, erosion and sedimentation control, and we also increased the fees, because the fee schedule had not been increased in nearly 20 years. I believe 2006 was the latest. I'm happy to throw this up on the screen, but I think everyone has a copy there of the proposed subdivision regulations. And again, so, you know, lacking other members of the public, this commission has been actively in process of reviewing the chapters as we've gone through. So hopefully nothing here is a surprise. The one thing that I would note is that, you know, in the last couple of months, Attorney Rich Roberts, did review. He made a very small number of comments. I believe we sent you the markup there. One being just making sure that the full list of potential bond funding types, letters of credit, letters of surety, cash, you know, passbooks, were all included, and then some clarity about if public improvements weren't required, what kind of erosion and sedimentation bonding would be required. So Attorney Roberts has reviewed this. We've made a couple of very minor changes based on his comments, and we are basically set to go, unless members of the commission have any additional comments or changes that they'd like to see. But if you'd like, I can also throw it on the I'll throw it on the screen so we can look at some of the specific changes.
We have. So I just had, there's a typo on 3.1, just, the
3.1.
3.1, it should say land use office, it just says land UE office.
Oh, it sure does. Okay.
And then did you take out the 2,500, whichever is greater? Was that an attorney
Yes.
suggestion?
Yep. That was one of his.
I
If
See his others. What were his others?
that would have been in the, was that in the fees?
What, the 2,500?
Yeah, I'm looking.
3.7.1. But in that paragraph, 3.7.1, because you took out that sentence, there's.
Oh, yes, I did. I can show you that. Yeah, 3.7.1, that was the, are you looking at the clean or the markup?
I'm looking at the clean, just take out that extra comma because you took out that.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's equal to 10 so the last part of that is before release of the performance bond, a maintenance bond shall be submitted, which shall be an amount equal to 10% of the original bond amount for public improvements and site stabilization. And which shall be, okay, so there's an extra comma, I see that, yep. Okay. And the other thing that we could also take out, and I don't know if what the commission's sense of this is, if you look at, so for instance, if you're on page 6, the endorsement of the plan, section 3.8 and the top of 3.9, you've got basically the dates of update. You've got at the end of 3.8, you see 7/198, and then again in parentheses 3/15/01. I don't know that those are actually necessary.
Separate spreadsheet where you keep track of all of it? That's in the appendix?
No, there is no appendix of those things. So I mean, we could do that. But subdivision regulations don't have the same weight as zoning regulations, such that if something was subdivided, it's the zoning things that apply. Tracking the date of subdivision changes, it really isn't as critical as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware, I should say. So I would say if nobody has objections, I would propose to just take out all the parenthetical dates.
Yeah, I'm good with that. 311 has one, 3.11.
Especially because in most cases, we are changing the substance of, so for instance, if you look at 4.6 as an instance, that's on page 10, I think. Water company expansions, that the date there is 2/3/85, but we're actually proposing to change the reference to, certificate of public convenience and necessity by the Connecticut Departments of Public Utility Control and Health Services, which doesn't exist anymore. We're just changing it to the Department of Public Health and changing the statutory reference. So it's really that date serves no practical purpose. So I would propose to get rid of those.
I agree for removal.
And all the definitions jive with zoning?
Say that again?
All the definitions jive with zoning definitions?
Yes, and yes.
That's any other comments or concerns?
I was just curious what the attorney had taken out.
Yeah.
And did he ever verify that one question I always have, I always doubt myself? The fact if statute doesn't require a public hearing for something, but a commission has it in their regs that, I don't know, that they always have a public hearing for subdivision, which timeline applies?
Oh, if the statutes don't require one, but the commission, I think an optional hearing still has to follow the more limited timeline.
That's what I would think too, but it's not really That's why I had highlighted that in blue.
Yeah, wait, so
About five, because I've never, I don't know the answer to it, they didn't cover it in the law thing again, I meant to ask the questions I got.
yeah,
I mean, if the town, do we require a special, public hearing for subdivisions here? Or just?
no, it says May. I don't know, I think the last one we did was, what, Brown Road? And you did hold a hearing for that. That I can't remember if that was a re-subdivision, so it may have been mandatory anyway.
That was a resub.
So,
But,
yeah,
you know, like,
I think, you know,
East Hampton says they do it for every subdivision, no matter
Yeah,
what.
right.
So
And
in their regulations, do they get to abide by the longer time frame then?
I don't think like a subdivision or a public hearing of choice guarantees you the longer time frame.
Than what we have here, right?
Hearing shall be completed within 35 days after commencement. No, we could probably take like change that whole section and just say hearing procedure shall follow applicable state statute, you know, just so we don't have to get into the weeds on it.
Because it says any subdivision application or maps or plans submitted therein within 65 days after the public hearing thereon. Yeah, so they're saying you get an extra 65 days after a hearing, but my question was, if that hearing isn't really mandatory,
It says,
for site plan, it doesn't hold true, but subdivision was a gray area. Site plan, the answer is no, you don't get the extra time.
right.
But subdivision, if your regs say you.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I think,
You have a public hearing. I can't get a straight answer from anybody.
oh, really? Because I mean, a subdivision, like a site plan, is essentially an administrative approval, right? If you meet the regs, you get approved. And that's subject to mandamus. Like if we blow the timeframes, a subdivision, like a site plan, is automatically approved, right? A special permit is not, a text amendment is not, a zone change is not, but a subdivision can be automatically approved if you blow your timeframe. So I think that's the case. So we may want to just change that section to, the subdivision hearing procedure shall follow state statute.
Yeah, because it's also different, because you only call out subdivision or maps or plans submitted there. What about, re-subdivision?
No, we do say re-subdivision. No plan of re-subdivision shall be approved by the commission without a public hearing.
Okay, but you see the first sentence in 3.6?
Oh, no, I was looking at 3.3.
3.6, the commission shall vote to approve, modify, and approve or disapprove any subdivision, just subdivision, application or map and plan submitted therein within 65 days after the public hearing thereon.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So that could say subdivision / re-subdivision, and then everything will make sense, because then if no public hearing is held, meaning it was just a subdivision.
Right.
But I'm just making sure that that's actually right, though.
Yeah, I'd probably recommend throwing at the end of both 3.6 and 3.3 at the top of that page. I would actually propose in both places, not necessarily change that language, but just add a sentence that says, hearing and decision process, shall follow state statutes, in areas of disagreement with the local regulation or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But maybe it's true the way it's written. That's why I was just asking before, that somebody just run it by an attorney and get the actual answer.
Yeah, no, I mean, and Rich looked at this. He didn't flag it.
All right, well, then leave it. We'll interpret it, I guess, at the time. Okay.
Would you be comfortable? Yeah, I'll add that to 3.6.
3.6, any subdivision
/ re-subdivision. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then it's vague enough that.
All right, would you like me to put in a disclaimer about state statutory process?
If he didn't flag it, I wouldn't worry
Yeah.
about it.
Okay, that's fine.
There's usually some disclaimer.
So as far as the public hearing is going, should we close it?
I mean, we've duly advertised it. If you guys are done with your questions and comments, there's no reason,
We
there's no
continue
reason.
to have questions and comments after a public hearing?
Um, you
Sort of.
probably should, unless it
Alright.
should be something that's brought up. If you have a comment, it really should be, you can continue to discuss some of the things, like before you're ready to make a decision on it, you can discuss elements that were brought up or made, public during the public hearing process. So I wouldn't propose to change anything that you didn't bring up
Correct.
during the public hearing. But yeah,
And the selectmen were all right with, everybody's seen the fee increase and nobody freaked out?
Julie and Tracy saw it. They're the only people I'm be aware of that took a look.
I was glad I wasn't doing anything. I was being crazy.
Well, you guys, where do we advertise? What paper every day?
Bulletin, I think.
Oh, it's expensive. East Hampton Bucket, it's like some little paper, it's like $37.
Juliet, do you think that our choice of paper is what's preventing the huge turnout from the public? We put it in the Washington Post. I don't know if that was a mistake.
All right, I mean, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay.
Object?
All in favor of closing the public hearing on the subdivision regulations?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing closed. 7:17.
Can we act on that now or no?
We should vote on these right now, correct?
Can we do it right now or do you do it tomorrow?
I don't see it in here. So.
Where are we in the agenda? Yeah,
Our approval of minutes.
yeah. So you can act on it now if you'd like.
I make a motion to approve the amendments to the subdivision regulations as presented.
Second. All in favor of
Aye.
approval of the subdivision regulations as amended?
Aye.
Opposed? Subdivision regulations motion passed. That was a celebratory, Mike? All right, on to approval of the minutes. Everybody get a chance to look at the minutes from last month?
I guess I should look at this first, and then I could figure out what my comments would be. But I was.
Anybody have any issues or I'll make a motion to approve the minutes?
Read it quickly. Steve, we did discuss that here, the extra time thing.
You know,
I
that
still
was
don't,
like,
I still don't feel like that.
these were some lengthy notes from last meeting.
Hello.
Nope.
You know?
Hi, Scott. Is that you?
Hey. Yep, it's me. Sorry
Okay.
about that, guys.
You missed. We just closed and we closed the hearing and approved the changes to the subdivision regulations.
Perfect.
Now they're reviewing the minutes from the last meeting.
I'll make them. can I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
But we were just reading them, so. But I'm done now.
Got a motion, we have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any additions to the agenda? Citizens' comments? Negative. Old business? None. New business? None. Any correspondence or announcements? Nope. John, we're back to you for the CEO and planner report.
Okay, so ZEO report, nothing super significant. Permits have been relatively quiet. I will note, we did get a lot of correspondence and calls from a woman on, what's the road to the transfer station, between Econ Kill?
Or Brown
Congdon,
Road?
Congdon, thank you, Congdon. A neighbor concern about chickens, that are basically, a chicken invasion, where one neighbor's chickens, don't recognize boundaries, don't recognize property lines, and have been, and in the telling, wreaking havoc on this woman's lawn. And Taylor and I sort of explained to her that we can regulate structures and uses, but we don't really have a zoning regulation relative to the boxing in of chickens, particularly in an agricultural community. She wanted to know if something could be done about it. And
You don't have anything that says you have to maintain your animals on your own property?
we don't really have really much in the way of livestock regulation at all. And so the question, so she wanted to know if, we could raise this question with planning and zoning, if there's something you could do. The one caveat I said to her is, even if we were to pass a zoning regulation, and I'm not sure what it would be. And I mean, it could be something as simple as what Juliet is saying, is that you need to provide for the maintenance of livestock on your own property. There's a couple reasons zoning isn't really great for that. Number one, because if we get a complaint, hey, there are chickens on my property, a zoning response would be a notice of violation. And so we would have to go out and document this, by which time the chickens may not be there, and somehow document this, and then give someone 15 days to remove their chickens.
Well,
Go
no,
back
put
and-
up a fence. You would go out in the zoning.
Can you
have measures in place to contain your animals on your own
Well,
property?
okay, so if that was the case, right? So, but then the other trick with that, and again, if we want to do this, great. The other trick with that is, if someone has been having free range chickens, and Juliet, you may want to disagree with this too, before the regulation is in place, aren't those chickens essentially grandfathered? And they've always been free range chick. Why would they not be?
Because they're still free range, but you just have to keep them on your own property.
But I had chickens before fences were required, so I should be able to
Nobody's allowed
maintain.
to trespass.
If I had a cow, and the cow
No,
starts
you wouldn't,
walking up and down the road,
it wouldn't be grandfathered.
is that a problem? Is that gonna be a problem for anybody?
Well, it might be for a distracted driver, might be
All
a
right,
surprise.
all right, my neighbor's house, because
Yeah.
of poops on Joey's lawn.
Yeah. Well, the question is, at that time, if it's on his lawn, is it his cow?
Yeah, it's my cow.
How do you know?
Possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
Well, that is never.
What if he put a leash on the chicken and put a stake in the yard? It's his cow, right? I
There
mean,
must be something,
well, that's the question that this,
on my property.
that's the question that this woman asked us to think about.
Pretty easy, just sentence in it, and then you have it there if one person becomes a problem.
The trick is that it's a 6-foot fence, which would be our maximum allowable without respecting setbacks.
Right.
It doesn't keep chickens in.
Well, it does to some degree. I mean, they mind that. I disagree with that. That's what's.
So is this,
Box mine in with a 3-foot fence. They stay in there. They're done.
does this really become a domestic problem, not a
Well,
zoning problem?
I think that was our inclination to say this is a civil neighbor dispute and not necessarily something that
Correct.
zoning wants to wade into. But I told her I would raise it with the commission, and you guys are welcome to consider solutions.
I think that's a pretty simple fix, just to say any livestock must be contained on your own property.
Yeah.
But does livestock fall under planning and zoning?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, I mean, most
I-
most
I-
Have
communities.
animals foul and
Yeah.
zoning.
We have nothing to
Zoning
do
your
with
animals.
what you're zoning property and buildings and.
Oh, no, you can regulate the number of animals somebody can have based on their acreage.
That's right, we
it's
do
not-
have
that's
the
not-
dogs and, I mean,
Do we
dogs.
don't, do we have any animal policy?
We really don't. I mean, agriculture is an as of right use. We don't have animal formulas or things like that. And the only regulation that would apply is if you're going to house your animals, you're housing them in a structure. The structure would have setback requirements.
Right.
But we don't.
Thing to add right to that exact section, and that's not onerous, I mean.
I think that, yeah, that's something you guys could
I
consider.
can stick it right there. Structures have to, meet the setback requirements, and your animals must be contained on your property. Effectively contained on your something, then you can pick it up.
I
to-
mean, so this could be taken a lot of ways, though. I mean, chickens, dogs, cats. I mean, I think the thing is, if you enforce one, you got to enforce a bunch of stuff, and I don't think it's a great idea for the commission personally.
It's not pets, this would be your ag regulations, which refer to livestock and poultry, not dogs and cats.
What happens if your chickens start making noises and then your neighbors don't like the noises your chickens are making?
Yeah,
Then-
they have a-
Yeah,
Well, that's not, we're not
Yeah.
regulating noise, we're just saying you
I know,
gotta keep it on your property.
Right, but it's
I'm on-
still, it's another.
it's
that could be
down a
raised.
rabbit hole that's really bad.
Make the farm shit.
I'm surprised it took to 2025 for this to actually come
I feel like
up.
neighbors should just, hey, your chickens are on my property. Okay, I'll get them off your property.
Well, they can wipe
Well,
out.
that's, I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah, for
Cows
sure.
and, cows and horses can do damage, so. It's
Well,
not.
I mean,
regulation.
In truth, chickens can do damage too.
Yeah.
It's sort of more of a question, and I think this is maybe what Scott was getting at is, is this something that we shouldn't have to necessarily address because it's just about being a good neighbor
Right.
or taking care of the animals, but at any rate, yeah, no, I mean, that's something, and Juliet's solution, I think I don't think that's gonna fix it, but it gives us something to point to sort of encourage people. And again, because our role as zoning enforcement officers is mostly to, kind of let people know that people have been complaining. and the window for dealing with zoning complaints is really attenuated. Like, again, we give someone a notice. The first thing we do is call somebody or shoot them an email and saying, hey, can you please deal with your chickens? But then you get into 15-day notification. You have to move your chickens within 15 days. And then each time, from a zoning standpoint, each time a new chicken is there, it's a new violation and a new 15-day cycle and a new,
But you
it's,
don't have to look at it that way, John, though, if there's a pattern of a person not effectively keeping their animals on their property, that's the violation, so I mean.
Yeah. What if they
right, but
contact the bird flu and go over this lady's lawn, and she's got a dog and a cat or whatever, and they get sick, or she's got kids. They go out there.
I recognize that it is a problem. We were just trying to puzzle through what the best solutions would be. If it's a civil matter, sometimes the police are involved, sometimes an attorney is involved, sometimes, if it's sort of a question of who do you call and who can actually do something about it.
I feel like, wouldn't you just, your first call shouldn't be here, it should be to your neighbor. Hey, can you take care, like, everybody's just gonna start
That's
calling
probably-
here instead of like dealing it.
Well,
You know what I mean?
I would assume that's been done.
Because then nobody knows that regulation exists.
But once they do, I feel like it's gonna
well,
be.
that's, this obviously hasn't, this woman called us and said there really should be a regulation about this. What, why isn't there? So,
The Tracy.
An ordinance.
I think Tracy has
Well, yeah, it
other
could be
chicken
on the part of that.
concerns.
But it's a
If we,
really
if we,
simple.
if we added that, though, you have to have a
simple
public meeting.
What's that?
If
We'd
you
have
had
to
to
have
add that, say we added
Yeah,
what
that's
Juliet's
great.
talking about, you gotta have a public meeting.
That's a public hearing. Yeah, that's a,
Hey,
that's a,
I bet
that's
you
a
that would
text
open
amendment.
up
That's a
cans of
public hearing.
Some people, yeah.
And so that's the other thing, you know, there's a philosophical component of this too. And I think, you know, you guys are expressing it that maybe Scott is saying it is a neighbor concern. It's not something that the town should be invested in regulating because we're not that kind of town. But again, that, you know, Juliet's approach is, you know, is a
Fallback,
reasonable
right,
answer.
I call it. It's something you can fall back on if something becomes a
Yeah,
problem.
if it
You can
becomes
still operate like normal and call them up and say, hey, we
intolerable.
need chickens, but.
So that's, you know, it's really up to the commission. I could show you a draft of a regulation at the next meeting and we could think about it. That's really up to you. But I told her that what I told her I would do is bring it up.
Is that the only complaint so far that we've had on that? Like,
Ever?
That's the only, I don't know, Taylor, you may have gotten other complaints. This is the only one I can remember.
I personally think we're going to get a lot of complaints from people in town about the regulation, personally.
Right, so I mean, you could suggest it to please this woman, and then if the rest of the town comes out and say, no, we don't want that, then you've done your job and you've tested it out, and you say, no, we're not gonna change it. I mean, I don't know.
What if this lady decides to claim the chicken on her property?
Right. Well, that's
Yep, they have
her
fun.
option. Then that continues the civil disagreement between the two neighbors.
And
Just, it's not unusual for a town to have that in their regs.
I mean, here's the thing, if somebody wants to let their chickens run free, and I get that they're wrecking their neighbor's property, they're also putting their chickens at risk for many things, for loss, for anything, you know? It's only in their best interest to do something that want to keep their chickens on their property, but there's a lot of people that were in the country, they let their chickens free range.
I don't think a Cogden Road is country. Do you think a Cogden Road is country?
I think that it's not a rural, it is not a development, I will tell you that.
And I would guess just got to the other side of the coin, if you didn't want to put in a reg, I mean, I guess ultimately the neighbor could put it.
Yeah, but she shouldn't.
She shouldn't have to.
Correct.
But.
Correct. I mean, if this person feels that strongly for us needing a reg, let them put in an application for a reg. And we can entertain it that way.
There we go. That's a good idea.
We don't charge $1 million for that, like some towns do.
Mhm.
360 or something.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Oh, so that's a lot. I mean, that's,
You let it fester, well, the big issue up there.
I mean, most like cows and horses, they're fenced up, but they're gonna put, the chickens are the only ones that, I mean, in the springtime, that is kind of a drag when you plant a garden, the neighbor's chickens come wipe it out, but I don't know if it becomes more of a problem maybe.
How about the planning report, John?
So
But we're done with chickens.
yeah, so we are proceeding with several of the grants. The water systems grant, we had hoped to do some initial well exploration on a Connecticut water parcel, or a parcel that Connecticut water controls, near Beach Pond. But Connecticut water chose not to allow us to do additional drilling and investigation there. because they're worried about their existing wells. So we are a little bit back to the drawing board on Beach Pond, looking for good properties to investigate. I think we'll probably end up doing some drilling, investigative drilling on the property of Phil Belisle on Bennett Circle. He and his father Phil own a couple of parcels down in that area, and they've agreed to consider letting us explore there. We'll see how that goes. But meanwhile, we're also going to be proceeding with well testing on school and municipal property that's associated with behind the school or behind the current housing authority property on Main Street or Beach Pond. I don't know if we're convert from Main Street to Beach Pond. Anyway, so that in well testing is going to happen in the next couple of months. We did not get a community investment fund grant that we had applied for to look at repurposing that red barn behind you guys in the recreation field there. We had hoped to do an architectural and building use analysis and sort of design a new facility there that would host Parks and Rec, like equipment, storage, meeting rooms, community space, as well as redoing some bathrooms out there. This was basically a planning study. We did not get that, but we're going to resubmit in June. And we did submit a STEEP grant that we'll hopefully find out about, I think, next week. STEEP is Small Town Economic Assistance Program for the resurfacing and repairs of Congdon Road, which is a road that is in need of repair. So hopefully we'll get that. That was a $900,000 give or take grant request. So hopefully we'll find out about that in a positive way next week.
The salon multifamily guy.
I'm sorry?
The multifamily saloon.
Oh, saloon?
From him, he's in the works of sending those engineer plans to a building inspector.
Bill?
That's what he did. Yep. It was all fire code stuff, and so he's gotta get those to fire marshal too, and it's all floor plans.
But he's still moving forward.
He's still moving forward, yep.
I think that's everything. I don't know, Taylor, anything else that I'm missing?
John,
Yes, Scott.
so has anybody talked as far as the well stuff and digging? Has anybody talked to the Tamarack? Because they have a large parcel of property. I mean, would they be interested?
They do. I think that may be something we want to look at also, because I think we're really a little bit back to square one in the Beach Pond area. So yeah, I think we may revisit our conversation with Tamarack.
Because I know that Belisles have a couple pieces down there, but I hate to put all our baskets into one person. If we could spread that out.
Sure.
I do know that that's a larger parcel. I don't know if didn't the town own a small parcel down there at one point that we said could go for sale or something? I'm sure it's not big enough, but there was a very small piece that I think that had to do with a drainage easement that right at the bend, I think, of it not Bennett Circle, but another road over there. Yeah.
That I certainly wasn't big enough to do any kind of exploration like that. It was basically a strip.
Okay.
But yeah, that's a good thought, obviously.
So is that everything then?
As far as I'm presenting right now, yes.
One thing left.
Okay.
Good second. All in favor?
Aye.